What's good, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Omar. Usually talk about a lot of different NBA teams go from each conference, but at heart, still a Magic fan, so I had to bring on two special guests from the 407 podcast. What's up, guys?
What's
How's it
up?
going?
So we did have a conversation on their channel. Link will be in the description if you want to hear more. We had more people on there as well, so if you want to hear more than we just talk about here, please check them out. All right, so let's just dive into it. So there's a lot of questions that this season needs to answer in order to move forward, especially with JI out. It's gonna tell us what a lot of players need to prove in order to go forward for the future, right? So let's just go over a couple of players that need to answer the question. For me, Aaron Gordon probably one of the biggest ones. So my question to you is, what does Aaron Gordon have to prove that he can still be part of this team's future?
So I'll start out. I think Aaron Gordon brings a lot of positives, but the main negative with him is his consistency. He shows up and really brings a lot of momentum to the team, but it's on a fairly inconsistent level. So we've seen his points per game go up and down, rebounds per game go up and down. We need that consistent level of performance. And it's just every year he's rumored to be on the trade block, and every year it's, oh well, he shows flashes and he has that potential to be that star player, and all the Magic fans think and know that if we trade him away, then he's going to blow up somewhere, and we just don't want to see that happen. So I definitely think consistency is the big thing that he needs to show this season.
I 100% agree with you there. I think Aaron Gordon's consistency is going to be the biggest key, but I also think it's really important to see how is he going to gel with those core pieces that we have. We're not going to see how he plays with Jonathan Isaac. We got flashes of that in the past, but if Aaron Gordon establishes a role that's really good with Markelle Fultz, Cole Anthony, as well as Mo Bamba, if he starts to go ahead, getting some minutes after he gets healthy, I think if Aaron Gordon really asserts himself as the three on this team, I truly think it's his team right now. However, as we've seen, Drew Holiday got traded. Aaron Gordon's a much higher caliber player. If we can get multiple draft picks, cash towards the future, I think it's going to be a move to move him. But it's really all going to depend on this season. A lot of Magic fans think it's going to be a wash, but really Aaron Gordon's play, as well as Evan Fournier, it's going to be really telling the direction of this team.
All right, so I think we all agree that Fournier's gone at some point this year. But we also did see that Portland did offer what they offered to get Robert Covington, 2 first rounders in Trevor Ariza, and Orlando declined it. So I think it's telling that Gordon is going to be here for at least this year with Isaac out. And I have to disagree with you, Seth. I never want to see Gordon again at the small forward. Vogel tried it, called him Paul George, probably the worst version of Aaron Gordon I've ever seen. But I think at the 4, because I think Isaac can play the 3. We've seen him when he came back for the brief moment, the 3-4 games he did play, he looked very comfortable on the perimeter, whether it was driving down to the basket or just pulling up from beyond the arc. It gave this team an excitement level, and then they were versatile defensively. That's why, for the defensive purposes alone, is why I'm very hesitant to trade Gordon, because that's something the Magic can have elite, especially with 2 guys in the backcourt that are 6'3", versatile enough to guard anyone in Gordon and Isaac. But
Yeah.
you did bring up Mo Bamba, so what's the question Mo Bamba needs to answer?
Yeah, I definitely wanted to bring up Mo Bamba because I don't think we've seen the maximum of his potential. I see Mo Bamba as one of those players that was dominant in high school. He went to Westtown School, played alongside Cam Reddish, then went on to Texas. He was dominant there as well, got us in the first top 5 pick. So I truly do think he's one of those NBA players that's going through that problem not translating to the NBA just yet. I think his health as well as injuries have held him back. So I truly think this second half of this year, when Mo Bamba truly is able to get those minutes at the 4, as well as even the 5, I think he'll play the 5 behind Vooch, but if we can get him in at the 4 using some type of big lineup, I honestly think he needs to show us that he's a part of this team's future core. If he is, having 3 Jonathan Isaac, 4 Aaron Gordon, 5 Mo Bamba, that is an absolutely insane youthful core. So I really think he needs to, just like Aaron Gordon, assert himself and say, I need to be a part of this team. And his chemistry with Cole Anthony is already known. So I truly think he needs to show that he's here to play and he has a hunger and a fight to be in the NBA.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is on Coach Clifford too. I mean, he needs to give him the minutes and the opportunity to play. He should be playing over Kem Birch this year. And even though Kem Birch is a serviceable player and at points played a lot better than Mo Bamba last year, Mo Bamba needs that opportunity. We need to really see what we have in him, and that's what this year is going to be all about. Obviously, not having Jonathan Isaac and waiting to get him back the following year. So I think that could really help and make a tremendous stride in us figuring out what to do with Mo Bamba and if he's really the player of the future for us at the 5.
So I completely agree there. So we saw like I think we saw his Mo Bamba's rookie year where he would play the 4 and he was lost and it looked really bad him playing next to Vooch. And I think if Mo Bamba was there, I think Orlando doesn't make that playoff run. So that was kind of like a blessing in disguise. But Mo has improved. We saw at the end of last year before the season got postponed. Mo Bamba looked very comfortable on the floor. And then he did get bigger. And then when the bubble came around, his conditioning didn't allow him to go up and down the floor because of COVID. But he didn't get pushed around either. But like when they played the Lakers, McGee wasn't able to push him. Joakim Noah for the Clippers wasn't able to push him around. He stood his ground, which that for me was just, I was very happy to see that out of Mo. And we saw Mo Bamba, like we saw the interview with Josh Robbins where that like the with the interview that it was came out that Mo was like, I want a bigger role in this team and I'm 100% healthy and I'm ready to go. So that attitude, I finally get to see like the want in him. That's something I always questioned with his motor. Like he always seemed like he was like just there to be there, but now I finally see that he wants it. He wants a bigger role and he's ready to push Vooch, like to make management make a decision on what they want to do. And that's all I want to see from Mo this year is make management like make a decision on whether to move on from Mo or he is the center of the future.
Something really quick I wanted to like to add to that. We were talking a little bit about it on our podcast before this, but with the addition of Cole Anthony and him being great friends with Mo Bamba, I think that'll add to Mo Bamba's fire and his want to play better because he doesn't want to embarrass himself in front of his friend Cole Anthony. He's got his friend on the team now. He wants to go out there and show Cole Anthony that he can play too. So I think that'll help his confidence and help his kind of like desire to look good and play good.
Yeah, going along with what you both have said so far, DJ Augustine had that connection with Vooch, and he didn't truly have a connection with Mo Bamba. So I definitely think bringing Cole Anthony's connection with Mo Bamba, I think that's going to be a plus. And with Cole Anthony taking DJ Augustine's minutes, I see that as a huge improvement. I think the moving of DJ Augustine is a step in the right direction of refreshing this team. I know we all saw all over Magic social media, fans pushing and hearing rumors about us going young, basically blowing up this team and just making a new youth core. We didn't see much of that, but we did see DJ Augustine moved. So I do think we have this youthful core. Mo Bamba 100% has an opportunity this season to show that this is his spot and his role. And Omar perfectly said, all Mo Bamba needs to do this year is put pressure on Vooch as well as management to decide the direction they're going to go with the big man.
So I also want to say that Mo this year is finally going to have like a very solid benching that's going to be consistent, where it's going to be Cole, MCW, Ross, and Chuma alongside Mo. And that's finally a bench unit where you go, okay, Orlando's bench is improving every year, and this is finally a bench unit that if Mo doesn't play well, I can't just sit there and look at the bench unit and be like, well, Mo didn't really play with like actual capable players, where now the pace is going to fit him better. Because as much as I love DJ, when DJ couldn't have the ball, the pace was slower and the game slowed down. But now the game's going to be a lot faster off the bench, and I think it's going to help Mo a lot there as well. So another player that we saw the jump last year, but I think Markelle Fultz needs to show, like now that his shoulder, he says it's completely healthy, he just has to maintain it, is the shooting ability. Whether or not, he has to answer the question whether or not he's going to be a capable shooter, which in the bubble, he shot around 37% on 11 attempts during the playoffs. So I think he might be able to do, when it's a full summer just shooting the ball, is he going to be able to be an effective shooter next to Cole Anthony?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I watched a ton of Markelle Fultz at DeMatha Catholic when he was in high school. Markelle Fultz's best attribute was his drive and then pop. The way that he'd drive in and then be able to hit mid-range shots, that was his whole game. He did that a ton in high school. He did that a ton at Washington. He even became one of the biggest scorers at Washington. So he definitely has a role on this team. He has the opportunity and even more minutes this year. We're finally going to see Markelle Fultz getting a starting role, getting consistent minutes this year. So I 100% agree with Omar. I think he's going to make a huge jump, potential most improved player this year. And we talked about it on our podcast. He could even push for an MVP role. We saw him put up triple doubles last year, and I just really, really exciting player. Go ahead, Mills.
Yeah, so a couple of things. One, Omar, you touched on the fact that he's like back and he actually played like a full season. It was a shortened season, obviously, but the fact that he played pretty much the full season, didn't miss a lot of time, and then moving to that shot, he's not like Ben Simmons where he just refuses to take the three. He took, I don't have the number in front of me, but he took a fair amount of threes last year. He wasn't afraid to take them. It was just like when and where. And getting that percentage up. So I think it's something that'll come with time. Maybe not all coming back this season, but definitely working on it. I think he's going to shoot more and shoot more efficiently. So he's just going to take those steps. And like Justin said, definitely someone to watch out for most improved player. Definitely most improved on the Magic, I think.
I have him pegged for me, Markelle Fultz. I pegged him to be my most improved. I think he's gonna be battling with Jamal Murray for that award. And for me, if Markelle can shoot 31, 32% from beyond the arc this year, that's going to open up the Magic offense so much more. It's going to make Gordon look better. It's going to make Evan Fournier look better this year because there's going to be just more spacing on the floor. And that was the one issue that we're like, well, if we're losing DJ, someone needs to be able to shoot the ball. And if Markelle does improve in that area, then the loss of DJ doesn't hurt as much. And then it's obvious that him and Cole will be able to share the backcourt.
That's such a good point. Something that I saw on a YouTube video earlier, and proving to your point, if he can get to that 31, 32%, and he can shoot somewhat consistently from three. When he was on the screen in the screen game, the defender went under the screen. I don't remember the exact metric, but it was something absurd, 98% of the time. So if he can force that defender, if they actually respect his shot and they have to go over the screen, that's going to help so much with him driving and dumping off, and just it'll help the entire offense. So definitely something really cool to see. Hopefully that we do see next season.
I think a Markelle Fultz starting point guard is one, going to speed up this Magic offense, and two, spread out the floor. That's going to be incredibly better this season for the Orlando Magic. I think just having the ability for him to control the offense as the point guard, and then being able to dish, just like Mills was saying, with being able to push the defender, force them certain directions. If we get Evan Fournier open more, I know Omar made a mention of this on our last podcast, was Evan Fournier does shoot the ball the most consistent on this team. If Evan Fournier is open, there's no move or no need to trade him, because if Markelle Fultz is getting him the ball in open situations, Evan Fournier is going to be a huge contributor to this team.
Okay, so to bring up Evan Fournier, if he played more of a Joe Harris role, do you think the Magic fan base would despise Fournier as much as they do?
No, I don't. I think if Evan Fournier had the ball less in his hands and more of a pick and pop like Joe Harris, Klay Thompson, Magic fans would have to love him just based on his stat line. His numbers were inflated last year.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like people love JJ Redick, and it's if we put JJ in this role, they would have hated JJ. So I just think it has to be the usage of Evan Fournier instead of what he actually do, because Evan Fournier can be a very good player for this team, especially for this year with Cole primarily being the backup point. That he does have to be despised, but a lot of that has to be fall on Coach Clifford. So as we get into Coach Cliff, what questions does he have to answer as a coach going into this season?
I think he has to answer the balance. So we saw last year and the year prior, we start out the year and our defense is impeccable, but our offense is bottom two or worst in the league. And then it totally flips later on in the year, and our offense is killing it, averaging over 120 a game, but then we're giving up, 120, 125 a game. So we need that. Maybe don't be, top 10 in one, but just be kind of middle of the pack or a little bit better in the middle of the pack in both, and kind of find that balance, because that was something where we really struggled with last year.
So for me, Coach Cliff needs to find a balance on this roster, how to stagger minutes. I think he does it. I think, for example, I loved when AG would be the first starter to come out first, and then he would run the most with the bench unit. And that made AG a playmaker. I think that's when he's at his best, when he's a playmaker and he's not necessarily looking to score. But and then he would also put moments where it would be MCW and Markelle Fultz, and neither of them can shoot. And then the offense was god awful, and it made Terrence Ross look worse because he could come off the screen and be there, be two defenders. So if Coach Cliff is able to stagger a lineup where it makes sense and all players put them in position to succeed, then Cliff answered my question that he could be the coach going forward and not a bridge gap coach.
Yeah,
I personally do like Clifford.
I agree with you. I do like Coach Clifford. I know Mills does as well. My segment is just going to add on both of yours. I completely agree with you both. The only areas I want to see improvement for him is discipline and being able to change on the fly, being able to make adjustments at halftime. So I do think he's the coach for the future. He's defensive minded. I do think he's going to have a youth core that's going to be able to play to his standards, what he's going to like to see out there. So I think it's going to be a big tell for the season, how he manages the minutes, just like Omar was saying. And then exactly how Mills was saying, just how he's going to utilize these players, what type of lineups he's going to put out there together.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, 7-year playoff drought, Clifford comes in back-to-back playoff appearances. So at the end of the day, I think that's what matters. Yeah, exactly. With a roster that was putrid. At the end of the day, I think Clifford is here to stay. And I think a lot of Magic fans like Clifford. It's just, you can't have everything you want. I mean, you can't just be all around perfect. Otherwise, we'd be a lot more successful than we were.
Yeah. So I think we all agree that which is going to be his consistent self. I think we all agree that Ross is going to be a lot better this year being consistent because he's going to have more shooting around him. So that really much leaves our two rookies, Chuma Okeke and Cole Anthony. What do you want to see out of their rookie years to be like? The Magic did a very good job of selecting these two guys.
Yeah, I think the pressure's on Anthony a lot more than Okeke. I think people are expecting a ton from Anthony. He's really what the Magic need. He's a walking bucket, and we need that like star scorer that can just put up crazy numbers. Okeke, I feel like, is going to be more like a role player, but will kind of come onto his own and find a really good. I feel like he might even become kind of like just like a 3-and-D player, but like a good that'll be like a good fit for us. We don't need him to be like a superstar. But I mean, I could be totally wrong. He could just blow up. But yeah, I think that if Cole Anthony puts up good numbers and shows that he's got that like kind of star power potential, and Okeke just kind of fills his need, gets his basketball legs back, obviously hasn't played in a long time, that'll be kind of a successful outing for both of them the rookie year.
I agree with you, but I am going to say that I think Chuma Okeke is going to have a lot more pressure on him. Not as much pressure, more of an opportunity for him, because I think that 3 spot really could become his within the first couple weeks of the season, depending on if he's NBA basketball ready. So I do think Chuma Okeke and Cole Anthony are awesome picks. The Magic essentially had 2 first-round picks this year, 2 players who were deemed as 2 lottery picks. Both got injured, and Magic just happened to fall to them. So I'm really excited for both of them. I think they both fit in tremendously with Fultz as well as Isaac. If we're keeping around Aaron Gordon, him as well. I do think that this youth movement is absolutely amazing for the Magic. 100% the most slept on team with the youth as well as our bench being much better than it was last year. So I think Chuma Okeke is going to push his way into that starting lineup, and I think he's going to play fantastic with Markelle Fultz.
So I think the Magic did a very good job of going the youth movement without necessarily blowing up the roster and just tanking. Because that's something I really like about this management is they believe in building up their team while winning and not tanking. They believe that young players need to be in a situation of like learning how to win. So I do like that. I think Cole Anthony is going to have the better rookie year because he's going to have like a set opportunity. Like Coach Clifford doesn't have another choice. Augustin's gone. Cole is going to be your backup point guard for better or for worse. And I think Chuma, I think it might be a Markelle Fultz situation where it's clear that he needs to be the starter and he knocks out James Ennis from being the starting small forward. And I think the role Chuma's going to end up playing is when we draft him, I'm like, okay, he's most likely to be the backup for next to Aminu, with being the backup to Isaac and AG at the forward position. Cole, I think we all know that he's eventually going to be the starting 2 next to Markelle. I think because I really like their personalities is also very different. We saw Cole Anthony was like, shoot, I know damn well there's not 14 players that are better than me in this draft. I might as well go win Rookie of the Year. And Chuma was more like, I took a lot from the first practice. Terrence Ross on the first play blew by me, and I just had to adjust. So I think I like both their energy. Coach Cliff said they both played very well in that first practice, so I'm very excited to see them both.
Yeah,
And
something else, kind of based on what Justin was saying, from a fan perspective, I think that Anthony has more pressure, but from like kind of like from their self, I think that Okiki has pressure like put on himself to really show what he can do, because he's kind of been like a forgotten man. I mean, you think about it, he sat on the Lakeland bench for the entire year, didn't play any basketball, and kind of just was forgotten from the team. And the fans are obviously hyped to get him now and have this like addition of youth to the team. But I think there is a lot of pressure like that he puts on himself to really claim that spot, and be a good player. And there is not a lot of depth at the 3 this year, so maybe he can push for that starting role.
yeah, I agree. I think Cole's gonna have more definitive role, and Chuma, his role is he has the ability to be a starter as well just to be like a 6th, 7th man throughout the whole year. Might as well talk about Dwayne Bacon. His shooting was really up and down throughout his first 3 years in Charlotte. He shot 45% 2 years ago, and then he shot 27% last year. And with Evan Fournier on the roster, Ross on the roster, I really don't see a lot of minutes coming for Bacon this year.
I truly do like Dwayne Bacon as a prospect on this team. I think getting him for the minimum is an awesome contract. He went to Oak Hill as a high schooler, played for one of the top teams in the country. He was actually one of their top players from that team. Then he went and played at Florida State, and now he's in the NBA. Had 2 poor seasons so far at Charlotte. Can't really blame him. That team's kind of a mess. Franchise not in the greatest position. But I think having him as the 5th guard on the team, probably 3 or 4th backup at that 3 spot, I think it's going to be really cool to see what he does in the preseason. If he happens to bring it back.
With Ross hurt, so he's going to get the chance.
Yeah, he's rostered. You never know. Injuries might happen. He might get to play. I truly think he's on the same type of platform as James Ennis, Gary Clark. I think he's right around that same level of play as those 2 players. And if he does happen to find his shot, I really do think he could be a very good player on this team. Definitely an upgrade from what we had in seasons past, like Josh Majette.
Yeah, I agree with both of you on that. I think that on one hand, he's not going to see any minutes if the team stays the way it is. But if there are injuries, then he could be pushed into a more important role. But really quickly, I just think it was as simple as them seeing the familiarity with Clifford as him being his coach prior years. So true. They brought him in just for depth, and he already knows kind of the system and Clifford system. So I feel like it was that simple. It wasn't like a super thought out move for the future or anything like that.
And then right before asking the final question, I do want to bring up, how long do you guys think Evan Fournier is going to last on this roster? It was said that the trade was agreed upon to send Evan Fournier to Oklahoma City for Kelly Oubre, but Orlando didn't think anyone was going to get him a first rounder, and then Clay got hurt, and they ended up sending the first rounder, so that trade fell through the hole. How long do you think Fournier actually stays on this team?
I think the best point that you made, Omar, from our podcast was this team is 1 injury away from the 13th seed, or the 13th in the draft in the Eastern Conference. So one pick, and this team very well could be blown up. You could see Aaron Gordon, Evan Fournier moved. You could just see us stacking picks, waiting until Jonathan Isaac is healthy. So truly 1 pick away. I think if we start off, as Omar was saying in our podcast as well, that our schedule is easy to start off. If we get hurt early on, we're not making that back. So honestly, it's all going to depend on how we play. If he plays really well with Fultz, he starts shooting off 35, 40% like he had it sometimes last year, then he's going to be on this team to the trade deadline. But in my honest opinion, I think he's traded at the trade deadline this year, no matter the Magic standing. We definitely need some more picks to go along with this youthful core.
I think it makes the most sense to move him at the deadline, but I think there's a ton of variables involved, such as injury or his play. You could make the argument that the better he plays, the more likely it is he's moved because he's that much more lucrative of a prospect. But I think just most realistically, like given the recent like moves that the team has made, kind of re-signing Vooch and Ross and not really trying to blow the team up, I think it's more likely that he's just plays out his contract and then just isn't brought back. But I guess I could see them moving him at the deadline. It depends on what Weltman wants to do and how explosive he wants to be come the deadline.
That's actually surprising. That's actually probably the first time I've heard to see just Fournier just let him walk at the end of the year. But I can actually see Orlando doing that, especially if they're actually like the 7 seed, 6 seed, and they're actually going to make the playoffs, and they want to keep that shooting on the roster for a playoff push to see how they perform in the playoffs. And then finally,
go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
I 100% agree with you, Omar. I think if we are pushing the 6-7 seed, he's going to be on this team. I think he's going to stay with us to the end of the year. However, if he is still on this team, I do not see us letting him just walk. I think Evan Fournier has put us through so much with the bad play, the good play. I'd see him doing a sign and trade, if anything. I don't see us letting him walk after keeping him through all this. So letting him go for free after having opportunities, like you said, this whole topic was talking about that trade that did not go through for Kelly Oubre. So I don't think we're letting him go for free.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's like the right move for them. I think that might be what they do. I mean, they let DJ walk. They didn't trade him. Fournier is obviously a better player, but they didn't trade Ross or Vooch. They re-signed them and kind of kept the squad together when everyone thought they were going to blow the whole team up. So I don't know. I'm not sure what they're going to do. I'm just thinking that it might be a possibility that they don't do anything crazy and just kind of like ride out this year, waiting for Jonathan Isaac to get back next year.
That'd be a very magic move. You just wait it out, see what happens.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah. So, all right, now to wrap this up, what would you consider a successful season for this Magic team?
Go ahead, Mills. I want to hear what you have to say before I have two different go.
That it's interesting because on the one hand, it's like, well, make the playoffs, but that's been the past 2 years, and Magic fans are sour at the gentleman sweeps that occur when we're in the 7 or 8 seed. So I think honestly, a successful season would be like get to the 6th seed. You haven't been there, so I mean that might help. But also with the play-in games for the later seed or later seeds, it might be interesting to see what happens. I don't know how it's going to quite shake out at the end of the year with those bottom teams not in pushing for a spot. So maybe successful season is just making that, like securing a play-in win and making the playoffs, because it might just be tougher this year.
I'm going to just say 3 final topics as we close this out. One major win, no matter what, winning season, losing season record-wise, we are going to learn and we are going to have all of our questions answered on what Mo Bamba is in this NBA team, what Cole Anthony and Chuma Okeke's impacts are going to be, because they are both going to get playing time. And then 3, what is the direction of this team, either winning or losing? We're going to find out who is here to stay. But a win going record-wise, I'd like to see a 6 or 7 seed. And but it's also a win if we go ahead and tank. We trade everybody away. We right the ship, clean book. We get rid of whoever we need to, honestly. It sucked to lose Aaron Gordon, but losing Aaron Gordon, Evan Fournier, getting rid of all these players on 1-2 year contracts, and then having a ton of money to spend in this huge free agent market next season, I think adding more picks to this youthful core, that's a win as well. So this is going to be a weird NBA season without fans. Last year, there's an asterisk on that championship. So we will see. And either way, no matter what happens this year, we're so excited for Magic basketball to be back.
All right. For me personally, I don't want to say it's a playoff or a bust, because if Orlando does get the 6, 7 seed or 8 seed, cool, you made the playoff. If you lose in 6 or 7, cool, success as well. But at the end of the year, we do get those questions answered, and we're starting Cole Anthony and Chuma starting. I'm really not gonna have a problem with that either. As long you either have to make the playoffs or have your young core show you what they have. If either of those things happen, then it's a success for me, regardless.
Yeah, I actually, you know what? I want to revise my my projection. I think that it will be a success. If we don't make the playoffs, it will be a successful season. If it really is this gap year where we're just waiting for Isaac to get back, we really do need to see what that young core brings. And if that question does get answered, if Bamba plays a ton of minutes, we finally know if he's the guy or not, if Okeke's the guy or not, if Anthony is really that great steal that we got, and if Fultz takes a big jump. If we can answer all those questions, then yeah, it's a successful season in my book.
Because, like, for example, if Orlando finishes 7th and Boston finishes 2, and the Magic lose in 6 or 7, and that's without Isaac, then this Magic team looks really good going forward.
That's a very good point.
But that's basically going to wrap it up here. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for coming on.
Yeah, thank
No,
you so much for having us, Omar. This was awesome. Continue, you guys, to keep listening to Omar. So much knowledge, so much passion for this Orlando Magic basketball team. So thank you for having us.
The
Thank you
407
so much.
podcast
Really appreciate it.
The 407 podcast link will be in the description. Their part of the podcast will be on their channel. Do take a listen to that. Like, comment, subscribe. See you guys next time. Peace out, man.